Well, today is June 5th. Took off of work this week just to kind of have a little staycation. So I figured I'd go ahead and do a quick garden tour. I just fertilized the garden this morning. So we'll start with the flower bed right here. You can see that some of the sunflowers are blooming, and I believe this was evening sun. So I think they're supposed to be like a mix, but these two happen to be the same. And then up front, of course, we have the Gomphrena, and the Bachelor button is kind of shadowing that one there. But the Bachelor buttons are still blooming pretty well. The other side, you can really see the blue ones. So I'm gonna leave them a little bit longer, but they have kind of flopped over due to some wind and stuff like that. So I think I'm gonna cut them back about a third of the way and allow them to rebloom for the fall. But then I'll probably come through and sow some alyssum just to kind of fill in spaces and help keep weed pressure down. I do see some cosmos that have reseeded themselves from last year, and I'm pretty sure that's the Bright Lights mix. And then we do have this canary bird zinnia and an Isabellina. Looking pretty. I love that pale yellow. I just wish the blooms looked a little bit different, but yeah. So then we have this Crackerjack marigold, which I need to come in and deadhead. And then we also have this tomato here, which is the large cherry, and it's doing very well. Haven't noticed too terribly much disease. I did accidentally break this off yesterday, trying to train it back up the trellis a little bit. So I'll probably get some ties and do some of these other branches that have gone a little bit past. But here's the Bachelor's buttons from this side. As you can see, a lot of deadheads, but I don't have time to come out here and deadhead these things. And then here's the bed that was kind of the cabbage and the lettuce. I will harvest some of this lettuce today. Hopefully it's not too bitter. I mean, we're getting into the 90s, so lettuce is pretty much done for. Cabbage, we didn't get anything. I think I'm going to stop trying to grow cabbage in the spring and just let it be in the fall, because it takes up a bed when I could have planted some squash or something there and just didn't do anything. I did get some seed off of this pak choi plant, and I did notice some birds sitting on the branches trying to crack open the seed heads to get some seed, and I thought that was cute. But again, I'm going to harvest these lettuces right here and just call it a day on the lettuce. And then same thing goes with this one. These two have already bolted, so I'm going to just harvest that one. We do have the basil on either side. That one is much larger and already going to seed, so I need to pick that off. And then here we do have Kalima beans, and I did reseed 2 there. And then of course the onions are doing pretty well on either side. And then the Cherokee purple tomatoes are doing wonderful. I do need to stake some of these up again. But as you can see, that's the largest tomato so far. It's pretty big. But yeah, then over here we have some of our pepper plants. This front row here is poblano. The second row, I believe, is banana pepper. Yeah, banana. And then we have some, I think, California Wonder there, these 3. And then those are jalapeno, and I think one of those is a banana. One of each of those is banana and poblano. And then, of course, we have the cilantro that has gone to seed, which the pollinators are loving at the moment. And then up front here, we have a row of soybean. And I thought it was interesting. Some of them have this really pretty purple flower. And then this one has white. So I don't know if they mix up varieties or what, but they're the same seed packet. And then here, of course, we have Jimmy Nardello pepper. And as you can see, we do have a pepper coming up right there. And then on the other side of that, we have, what is this one? Cubanelle right there. And they're a little bit yellower, but they were really yellow when we planted them out. And I've been fertilizing and they're turning green. So I think they were just lacking some fertilizer, maybe slightly overwatered as well. We did have quite a lot of rain in the spring, early spring. So maybe that could be it. But most all of the varieties have flowers on them, and I have picked off several just to kind of help the plants grow as I saw fit. But then right here we have the sunflower. It's really pretty. And we have this zinnia here, which I can't remember if I planted this. There's a bug on it. If I planted this or if it's self-seeded, because I've never had a zinnia that color in this area. So I'm thinking I must have planted it there, and I don't remember what variety it was, if I did. And then we have the watermelon, which, I don't know, they're looking all right. I probably should pull one of them up. And then we have the marigold right beside it, and this lavender that I got from Big Bloomers. So really pretty. And then of course, throughout here we have volunteer zinnias, volunteer marigolds, and I will eventually end up pulling them as they grow. I think I might leave this one here since it's so close to the planter. And I might leave like one or two of these right here so they can kind of come up this trellis. But other than that, they're gonna have to come up as they get larger. I did have a volunteer dill, which I'm leaving for the time being. I did have dill in each of these beds last year, flanking the trellis, so that's where that came from. And that volunteer marigold, I'm gonna leave it since it's so close to that trellis there. But then on this side here, we have the San Marzano tomato, which is also doing very well, looking pretty good. And height of both of these tomatoes is about eye level with me. Both of the ones on the trellis. So back up a little bit, you can kind of, this one has got a little bit taller of a runner going there. And I did forgot to mention that one little basil plant down here is being kind of shaded, so it's not very large right now, but you can see it right there behind the bachelor button. Once I cut back the bachelor button, I'm sure that one will do great. And then this bed, we have some more Cracker Jack marigolds, and all of them turned out to be orange this year, which I was kind of bummed about. I really did like the yellow Cracker Jack marigold last year. I felt like they held onto their blooms a little bit better than the orange ones did, but we did have the orange zinnia, or yellow zinnias, so I'm hoping that kind of works out. And then we did have an orange calendula here, which is being shaded by the bachelor button that fell over. Another yellow calendula, and the basil there. And this bachelor button, those are the ones that I transplanted here. They're not doing the best, but they did have some blooms. And I am seeing some Cleome, which I've heard pronounced Cleome or Cleome. So I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, but I might let it grow here because this is the flower bed. But the only thing I don't like about Cleome is that it self-seeds so bad, or so good, I guess you could say, so well. Then here we have some more Gomphrena, another one being shaded by the bachelor button. That one doesn't have any blooms on it yet, likely because it's not getting much sun. So I don't know what color it's going to be, but I'm hoping it's either white or this fuchsia because we do have two of those light pink on either side. And I'm pretty sure this was the mix that I planted. Those, I believe, were the ones that were marked, so I knew what they were going to be when I planted them and was able to alternate the colors. Then here we have more cilantro and more bachelor buttons. Those are ones I grew from seed this year, so they're not going to be as large as the ones that self-seeded themselves. And then this zinnia I thought was going to be a canary bird zinnia, and it could be that it's one of the ones that I saved the seed from last year, and of course it can cross-pollinate with other plants, or it could be that I just mislabeled when I planted, or when I started the seeds indoors. So oh well, I mean, it's a lot of orange in this bed, so I'm trying to figure out once the bachelor buttons go, because they'll be coming out here in the next, well, I'll be cutting them back soon because they're looking kind of unruly. I'm trying to figure out what to put in their place. Kind of thinking some cosmos maybe, but we don't have a lot of time for them to grow, and alyssum will be a good thing for ground cover. I'm definitely going to try to do some alyssum because the pollinators do love it. But other than that, I'm trying to figure out, might do some straw flower. Maybe I do have echinacea plants on the porch that need to be planted out, and I do have a lavender, so I probably could pop those in once they're good enough and ready to go out to the garden. We'll see. I do have the volunteer sunflower here and a volunteer sunflower there and one here as well. So I'm just letting them do their thing because they're not really in the way. And then did fertilize garden this morning, so I got all this stuff out still. And here we have that Pentas I got from Big Bloomers. I'm really liking it, and it's doing pretty well out here. And then of course, lining this bed, I do have all of the radish that I planted while the peas were still here. So I did take the peas out because they were getting a bunch of powdery mildew and just not looking the best. And I went in and put my squash and a couple of gourd plants, and I haven't had very much germination yet, so I'm hoping that they'll come up. If not, I did have a couple of varieties that did come up, so I'm thinking the ones that didn't, the seed may just be bad because I've had it for several years and I don't really store them. I'm not careful with how I store them, so they could just be bad seed. But I did go in between each squash plant and put a petite yellow marigold plant that I had started from seed. So I'm hoping between the radish, and I did sow some more radish around each area where I planted the squash. Between the radish and the marigolds, squash bug pressure and vine borer pressure will be limited because I'm already struggling with them over there. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday where I think next year I'm going to plant my squash as early as possible because I can get them to a decent enough size to where the vine borer and squash bug will still be here, but they'll be larger plants, so they might be more resistant to pests when they do end up showing up. So might try that. Another thing to try is planting in late July, August, because we still have just enough days for them to start producing before our first frost. So I'll go down the row and I planted yellow straight neck there. Nothing has come up. Supersonic yellow squash, nothing yet. There was a gourd mix I just bought, so all of those seeds should be good. None has come up here. Crookneck, one did come up. This is smooth criminal yellow squash, nothing yet. Dark green zucchini, nothing yet. Then here is the gourd mix that I was saying. One came up here so far, so I'm not, then this just came up today. It wasn't here yesterday, so I'm gonna wait a little bit longer before I reseed over there. Here we have Black Beauty zucchini, and we had 100% germination there because I did plant two. So I can always plant that variety where the dark green zucchini was if it doesn't germinate. And then right here is a white scallop squash patty pan, and it did come up, and I only planted one of those because that was a brand new packet of seeds. And then over here we have the potatoes, which have suffered some insect damage, but I'm not too concerned about that. They'll be all right. I think it was the Colorado potato beetle because I did see a couple. Could have been something else as well. It's mainly this one grow bag right here. The others look pretty good. And when I did see those Colorado potato beetles, I did sprinkle some of that powder, that organic pesticide on it, and it worked. So going down the center here is flower. I guess we can call this flower lane. The straw flowers are doing pretty good. Most of the ones that are blooming are this pink color or starting to bud. I did have two on the very end down there. I had to pull because the ants are eating the stalk. And so I did sprinkle DE, did not work. I still see a bunch of ant activity on each of these plants. So I'm gonna have to figure something out. I may just have to break out the 7 because I don't want to lose all my flowers. They are a cool season flower, which I learned this year, and I did not know that, but they seem to have bloomed last year. I mean, they did get more prolific towards the fall, so when it was cooling down, but I did have blooms and decent sized plants throughout the summer that handled the heat. So that's something to note in the future. I did not know that they were a cool season crop, and I do have echinacea planted throughout here, and these were, I can't remember if these were ones that I grew from seed. Yes, these are the ones I grew from seed. I did buy some from Big Bloomers. I thought I bought some echinacea. Okay, I put those in the pots on the back porch. I got the echinacea purpia so that they would be the pinkish color. And I believe here we have some gomphrena that has come up, and I'm gonna let it go because, you know, I'm not too sure these straw flower are gonna make it because of all the ant pressure. So, and the ants seem to not be bothering the echinacea, and they didn't, I can't remember last year. I did notice lots of ants, and I can't remember, I didn't take note of which plant it was that they were surrounding mostly, but it could have been that straw flower as well. And then here we have the bee balm, which has not yet bloomed, and I don't know if it's going to bloom. It did have a lot of powdery mildew, but I seem to have gotten that under control somewhat. So I did come and prune and thin these plants quite a lot. I did see that if they don't get enough sunlight, they won't bloom. So, I mean, I feel like they get plenty of sunlight, especially this one over here. So I don't know why, but these definitely probably will not be something I keep in the garden, because as you can see how badly they spread, and this is only year 2. And I didn't realize they spread like this. But the more you know. This isn't a permanent gardening spot. It's just kind of until I can, you know, get on my own, and then we'll have something to start anew. Then of course we have a Zucchino Rampicante squash there that I just seeded again because the other one did not come up. Then we have here a winter squash. This is the Waltman's butternut, and I've been pretty good about staying on top of squash bugs. Don't see any on this plant. I do see a little mushroom there. But as you can see, more ants. Like, I don't know, well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but just lots of ants. And then here we have a calendula, which is supposed to help with the squash bugs, and it attracts squash bugs, which is, you want them away from your squash plant to maybe this plant. And I have noticed a few of them on there once in a while. I did find some eggs on it, so it is true that, you know, it also attracts the squash bugs. Oh my goodness, can you see that? There's a bird eating a strawberry. It literally just ate a strawberry. Yep, that's what's happening to the strawberry bed. Just kind of letting the birds have it. Hello, birdie. That's too funny. But then here we have more Zucchino Rampicante, and I'm pretty sure this is some squash vine borer damage right there. Oh, there, you can't see it. Which, not surprising, really. I might have to get some BT out. What I'm hoping to do is just allow it to root right here and then train it up the trellis, because I don't have the netting up yet. And this plant, I don't see any vine borer damage, but it's very yellow. So I did fertilize, and we'll see what happens. And then we have another calendula here, and then this is a bunch of, now that I say it, this looks like Zucchino Rampicante. So that's probably, I thought it was winter squash, but now I'm thinking it's Zucchino Rampicante by the way it looks. And this is probably the winter squash. Yeah, that's probably it. I guess we'll see. But as you can see, the winter squash plants aren't looking the best. And what's on them is DE, because I did notice ant activity around these. So I did put some DE around these as well. And I was like, hey, you know, we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll also help with the vine borer and the squash bug. Then back here, we have the corn, which has already started to tassel. So we'll see. The stalks are very small, so I'm kind of concerned that they're not going to be a good harvest, but we'll see. I did spread them farther out this year, so hopefully we have a good chance with those. And then here's Zayden's sunflowers that he planted, and they're doing very well. I did start some more corn indoors for this bed, and that bed over there I did sow well, and then here's the echinacea plant. That's from Big Bloomers for sure. And then the lettuce plants back there have gone to seed. So moving on, we'll pass over strawberries. The goal is to take this bed out at the end of the season, build a bench to put here, and then build a small thin bed backing that connects these two. And that'll be like a sunflower, some kind of tall flower bed. So that when you sit at the bench, you know, if you wanted to take a picture, you'd have the flowers backing you, or you could just sit here and enjoy the view and not have to see what's behind it. But then in this bed, I did pull the broccoli, except for 2 plants, because I want to try to save the seed on these, because I did actually get a decent broccoli harvest before it got hot. And so yeah, we'll do that. And then I did harvest a bunch of kale this week, did a hard cut on it. So that's why it's looking like that. I left it because I don't have anything to put in this bed yet, and I don't want to entirely open up this bed to weeds, which it is still pretty airy, and of course weeds will grow. But that's that. We did put up the cattle panel trellis on the other side here, and sowed some Armenian yard-long cucumbers. Nothing has come up yet. I just sowed them, I believe it was Sunday that I came out here and did it. And then here we have the potato grow bag, which had a volunteer sweet potato in it. Yeah, you can see it right there, the heart-shaped leaves. So don't expect to really get much potatoes this year because the stalks are looking pretty small. And then here are my 4 herb grow bags. Eventually I will be taking these out of grow bags and planting them into the garden. But this was just something, I kind of want to get the bed out from Grandma's and make that an herb bed, a perennial herb garden. So that's the garden tour this time of year. So far not too much pest damage and not too much disease, so we shall see. I'm hoping to have a good year for tomatoes and peppers. Squash is going to be a continued fighting battle. But Linda next door has large, like already waist-high squash plants, and it's because she planted early, but she also uses 7, which I don't like to use 7. I only like to use organic stuff, and even then I'm pretty lazy in using that. So I don't know, like, do I use it or do I just not grow squash? So we shall see. Zucchini Rampicante did pretty good last year. I'll have to watch back to see when I planted it, because I do feel like I was a little bit late in planting it. And I do need to put up the trellis up here. So we'll see. Until next time, that's the garden.